what I would like to say is to tell the story of when we decided to start this project. And it's supposed to demonstrate the power of libraries to create a market for new authors. And we, three of us, I think Chris Ziegler, Sue Wilsey, and I went and talked to Dee Brennan, and I think we probably were a minute and a half in when she said, I support this. And that's how passionate she is about this. I think, Bob, that was about the length of that phone call when we said, you want to support this? And I think Bob's, I'm in. So the essence of this is very clear, very needed. Authors are bringing great pieces of writing to our customers, and we need to find a way to help those customers find those great reads. And so this library curated project is awesome for this. The other thing I wanted to tell people about is that we are kind of taking this to the next level. We are going to be helping library staff. There was a March workshop at Rails teaching library staff how to help authors take a manuscript and put it into a shareable format. At PLA, we were just at PLA a week ago. We had some interesting discussions with probable future partners, and so that's going to be another exciting step that's going to come forward out of this process, out of this project. Again, you authors may want to be part of this, and we'll let you know as soon as this gets further down the road. But so there's interesting places for this to go, and I congratulate you. I thank you for writing and bringing stories to customers, because that's what this is all about. So without further ado, Michael Peck, our 2015 soon-to-be famous winning author, and he's been such a fabulous author for us because he's been an ambassador for the project and willing to talk at all libraries, and again, across the state. I think we can all say we love Michael Peck for what he brought to this project, for his talents as a writer, but also for what he brought to Soon to Be Famous. Without further ado.
Well, thank you, Denise, and thank you everyone for coming. Before I get into it, I'll apologize for the quality of my voice. I've gotten over a cold recently, and I think my voice hasn't yet. It's just a couple steps behind me. So, good afternoon to everybody, as I say, and I'll apologize if I keep doing that a lot. I'm here because I want to tell you a story. And the three finalists who are here, who are fortunate enough and hardworking enough to have made it here today, also want to tell you a story, as does everyone who enters the soon-to-be-famous Illinois Author Project every year. We want you to care about our characters, trust us with your time and attention, and get to the point where you stay up a little later than you intended to finish the current chapter. We want you to take a 90,000-word trip with us, longer, shorter. But when you're finished, we want you to tell your friends and family and post about it on Goodreads, on Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, and your blog. I'm okay, thank you. That's a lot to ask. What are you asking from us? To believe in other worlds and other people who are worth your time? To have ideas, thoughts, and emotions served up to you that you wouldn't otherwise have come up with on your own? To be made to care and to be transported? Who helps you with that? Who helps you find a story to fall in love with? We know the answer to that because it's why we're here today, librarians. A year ago, I was fortunate enough to be named the winner of the soon-to-be-famous Illinois Author Project for 2015. You can watch the video if you Google it. You can hear my mom squealing with happiness for the first half of it. Maybe longer than half of it. That day still feels like it was a dream when I think of it. In fact, it was one of the best days of my life, and I'm not one to gush easily. That's how much it means to have won an award that comes from librarians and libraries for something that I wrote. A recent Aon.com essay on the power of storytelling talked about how a group of Princeton researchers found that when a subject told a story to a group of people, the areas of the brain governing empathy and moral sensibilities lit up in both the teller and the listener, joining them. Stories connect us. So if we accept that libraries are where stories live, then it follows that libraries are where community lives, where we come together as a community, and that's what I've found over the past year. Over the past 12 months, I've put my Zipcar membership to the test, driving all over the Chicagoland area and beyond in a Honda Civic named Macaulay. I don't know if anybody else here has used Zipcar, but they actually name all the cars, which is kind of cool, and that was my favorite one. I met all sorts of book lovers in groups ranging from 1 to more than 50, and at each stop I was amazed. I was amazed that anyone would turn out to hear me, this author that they'd never heard of, talking about a book they'd never heard of, and all because of librarians. At the Indian Prairie Library, I was told I look younger and thinner in person than I do. I could kiss that lady for that alone. In Peoria, I ran into a woman who'd bought my book earlier in the year and had had me sign it for her grandson. Then she and her husband decided to read it for themselves before giving it to him, and she decided that they weren't going to give it to him at all. So basically, if I can get a grandmother to steal something from her grandson, score. At the main library in Chicago, I had a man buy a copy and then refuse change for a 20 when I tried to give it to him. He said, "Hey, you wrote a book," and waved my money off. And indeed, I wrote a book. And so did the 3 finalists up here, and everyone else who entered this year. It takes a lot to finish a novel, as any of these people can tell you. But when you've finished and you've put it out there, you find that the biggest challenge is still in front of you: discoverability. How are you going to let people know that your book is out there and that they should give it and you a try? That's where this project comes into play. At every library I stopped at, I started out asking the attendees how many of them had read my book, The Journeyman. If ever a hand went up, and very few did, it was the librarian who'd put the event together. One said she read it because she judged the contest and had even voted for it, so again, I consider that a score. But that meant that everyone else was sitting there waiting to hear what I had to say, because a group of librarians chose to honor my work, and by doing so, had told their patrons that this was a story worth their 8 hours of reading time. And so they left their houses and came and sat and listened to a man talk who, again, they'd never heard of and never heard of the book and hadn't read the book. That's how much they trust their library. I didn't have any big expectations for sales. Books remain largely a word-of-mouth business after all. But I always sold at least a couple of copies at each stop, and sometimes I did even better than that, a lot better sometimes. Not huge numbers, but every single person who decided to take a chance on me was a gift from the library. On the flip side, authors have something to offer libraries as well. Whether traditionally published or self-published, when a writer shows up to put a live presence behind the words and read a bit from their work and sign copies, that allows the library to make a connection between author and reader. At one of my most recent appearances, the librarian, who was fairly new to the job, said, "Imagine that, an author at our library." And, you know, I almost turned around to see who she was talking about. Realized it was me. I hadn't counted on anyone being that happy to see me, and I hope she never loses that sense of wonder, and that she never loses the ability to transfer that sense of wonder to readers. Self-published authors can offer libraries a benefit too. As I've been telling people at every stop, the big publishing houses have not always been generous to libraries, especially on the ebook front. A publishing house ebook that costs a reader $9.99 to buy can cost a library around $80. And then there might be restrictions on how many times that copy may be checked out before the library has to purchase a new one. The situation's gotten tough enough that recently a group of Canadian public libraries mounted a campaign for fairer pricing. But self-published authors are offering that fair pricing right now. It's just a matter of getting the books in front of the librarians, and even more, curating those offerings so that librarians have a way of knowing which books are worth their precious budget dollars without having to sort through all of them. Well, the books from the 3 people sitting up here are worth those budget dollars, as are those from the finalists from the past 2 years and the finalists of future years whose books haven't even been written yet. As I said last year, whoever's name ends up being read, whoever got the most votes or points, everyone up here is a winner right now. It's an honor to be here, I think, for all of us. Congratulations to the finalists, and thank you very much for the experience. So we will start with Geraldine McGrady's lines. And I'm just going to do the summary and the judges' comments, and then I decided to read either the beginning or just a quick excerpt from each work so that you can get an idea of the flavor of it. So,
Read the sex part.
I don't do characters well enough. I never convince you. So the summary, aside from the sex part, is in 1871, and this is historical fiction. In 1871, Chicago is unaware of the great tragedy that's ready to unfold. The class struggles that were evident prior to the fire will be strengthened during the city's rebirth, and an obedient Livia Haas must find her own strength during the transition. Affected by a first love, a deceased brother, and a sinister acquaintance who threatens her life and family, Livia Haas is forced to question literal and personal lines as well as those that exist in the lineage from which she was born. Among the judges' comments, enjoyable, especially the historical details, a beautiful and compelling story, extremely well done and exceptionally well written. And so the beginning. And I will immediately tell you that these are female voices, and I trust everybody here to use their imagination. Do I look presentable, Mother? Do I smell all right? I remember saying those exact words, do I smell all right? Scents were not a compulsion with me prior to our coming to Chicago. The air and fields back home in Quakertown were taken for granted, a backdrop for my youth living innocently on the farm. From the moment we stepped foot on city soil, when the winds were traveling toward us along the lakeside, my nostrils had been infiltrated with the stench of slaughter, sewage, and such. Catherine told me it was all in my head, that we didn't even live in the South District nearest the stockyards and packing houses, and the poor Irishmen of that area were the ones who had it the worst, so I shouldn't dare complain. I guess there were some days when the smell seemed normal, when the air was still, when my head ceased to ache, but most days offered the constant reminder that city life might not bring us the hope we thought it would. Jonas's death still haunted us, Franz's post-war depression ensued, and Father's questions about his brother's demise remained unanswered. And that's just, again, a small taste of Geraldine McGrady's lines. Up next is James Hosek's Give a Dog a Bone, a Doctor at Mystery. And surprisingly, the genre is mystery. The summary is that Dr. Atticus Klameroff, Dr. At for short, is not a morning person, but an early emergency call starts a series of events which land him in the middle of several mysteries. Addie, as he is known affectionately by his friends, is a veterinarian with a house call practice on the north side of Chicago, bearing a passable resemblance to the actor Oliver Platt. He is a connoisseur of fine burgers and fries, likes his coffee black and strong, and never met a cheesecake he didn't like. I know people like that. He is assisted by the playfully nagging, shamelessly flirting Sheila, who operates a remote receptionist service and answers Addie's calls. The mysteries start to pile up when an apparently simple illness fails to respond to Addie's best efforts at treatment. Then the unexpected death of another patient leads to a shocking discovery. Finally, a DOA dog snagged by customs from a flight from Kazakhstan at O'Hare Airport puts him in the middle of a Homeland Security smuggling investigation. There, he meets Chicago cop Marcy Avers, who uses her skills as a police officer to track down the smugglers and her feminine wiles to help Addie trace the source of a deadly infection. Among the judges' comments, a really good read, a fast, fun read, and I absolutely loved this book. It was an intriguing mystery that was very hard to put down. And the beginning of the story, and I can't do sound effects, bang, bang, bang. That had to be gunshots, I thought. Even slightly muffled through the heavy door to the building's atrium, they were loud. That was the door that Chicago police officer Marcy Avers had disappeared into moments before. I didn't remember diving to the floor. I did remember thinking how good a job Henry, the janitor, did at keeping the marble tiles so shiny. My mind was racing. What was going on in there? Did Marcy shoot someone? Did someone shoot her? Were we in danger here? I was a veterinarian. I did house calls for pets, not police shootouts. The bump on my head from earlier in the evening was throbbing again. Part of me was thinking that someone might need help in there. The sane and rational part of me kept me glued to the floor. Charlie, the doorman, was still standing up, a confused look on his face. "Get down, Charlie," I told him. Charlie took my suggestion immediately. The third man in the lobby, an agent from the public health department here to enforce a quarantine, hit the ground as well. I was lying in front of the reception desk and couldn't see the atrium door from where I was. "What was that?" asked Charlie. "Gunshots," I said. "Who was shooting?" asked the guy from the public health department. "How the heck should I know?" I answered, a little perturbed at the stupidity of the question. "What do we do?" asked Charlie. "Stay down," I suggested. And again, I have to say, what I love about going through all of these, and it is a pleasure, is just the different tone, the different styles, and the different genres. It's a whole world of story that a contest like this makes available to readers. And then last up we have Amanda Meredith with Irish Heart, which is the second book in the Irish Treasures saga, and the genre is fantasy romance. The summary: long ago, before men came to the shores of Ireland, there lived a race of gods who fought a great evil to keep their island from sinking into the sea. Knowing men were destined to rule the land they loved, the gods created 4 great treasures to guard their beloved isle should the great evil rise to destroy it once more. Thousands of years would come to pass before the treasures were needed, before man would have to fight to save Ireland from destruction. Bridget McQuill has spent her entire life healing people in her small Irish town. After watching Morgan and Quinn nearly die battling a Celtic monster, she is determined to help everyone get back to normal. But when a love from her past returns to Ireland, events set in motion long ago come screaming back to present. After being injured in Iraq, Dermot Callahan is returning to Ireland to heal and reconnect with the woman he left behind 6 years ago. They discover Bridget is the keeper of a treasure that holds great power, but her life will be put on the line to guard it. Will they get a second chance at love when their lives and the fate of the world hang in the balance, or will fate tear them apart again? With a mix of magic, suspense, and plenty of romance, Irish Heart will take you on a journey that turns myth into reality and shows that the magic of love can heal all things. And among the judges' comments were, a great story. The story held my interest from start to finish, and simply a page turner. So here's the beginning from Irish Heart. She could feel someone following her. She didn't have to look to know who was silently keeping pace with her. She could hear his heartbeat and had known it was him. The beat was as familiar as her own. She stopped at the cliff's edge, knowing he would stop too. She would have to face him eventually, and she hated putting off the inevitable. His boots crunched on the brown grass as he walked towards her, the sound barely heard over the wind and waves. "Hello, Bridge." "Dermot," she replied as steadily as she could, staring unblinking at the angry sea. Her voice still came out a bit shaky, and she clenched her jaw in frustration. "It's been a while." His voice was harder than she had remembered. 6 years, she answered shortly, still not looking at him. Anger was replacing frustration, and she clenched her fists until she felt pain. "I know." His voice softened as he moved to stand beside her. "What do you want, Dermot?" she asked, crossing her arms over her chest, trying to keep her eyes on the water. "I don't know," he answered, sounding surprised. "I couldn't sleep. My dreams were crazy, so I decided to walk. I didn't think you'd be here, too." "I was on my way to Morgan," she answered, not revealing that her dreams had woken her early as well. "Ah, that'd be Quinn's new wife," Dermot murmured. "Never thought Quinn for one to settle down, especially to an American lass with a wee child." "There's nothing wrong with that," Bridget snapped, and in her anger finally turned towards him. She gasped when she saw his face, and any anger she was feeling drained away from her, leaving her cold and empty. I was wondering when you'd look at me, he whispered, glancing at the ground.
Morrison once said, if there's a book you really want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. I didn't know that I wanted to read the storylines until my genealogy obsession turned up an interesting fact. My great-great-grandmother, Olivia Haas, was in Chicago prior to the Great Fire of '71, and she was still here after it. That was the point when the "What Was Life Like for My Ancestors" vignettes that I had written turned into a new obsession with Chicago history. One little story led to another, and then I had questions about my ancestors. What did they lose? Where did they seek shelter? What became of them? What role could they have had in the rebuilding process? For whom did they mourn? What daily struggles did they endure? And before I knew it, there was the book I really wanted to read. Reading and writing have always been a personal love. I was the kid who always enjoyed the SRA program. Escaping into a card of fiction or nonfiction was no problem for me because it took place in the minimalistic school library, and I had the chance to browse titles when I was there. I was the kid who read a children's Bible and then rewrote the stories with dialogue of my own with new details. I created my first fictional story, The Bubblegum House, on pink pages that I received from a neighbor who had worked for a printing company. I loved that book. I got a lot of joy out of it. Strawberry Girl, Trixie Belle, and The Diary of Anne Frank. These were the stories that occupied my young mind and inspired me to put my own words on that page. And with age, more and more authors fed the fire of creative writing. But it wasn't until I became an English teacher that my personal love for these pastimes became something I needed to share with others. I needed to share that with my students. I wanted them to witness my reading. I wanted them to witness my writing. And then I became a mom, and the need for sharing these passions deepened even further. The Berwyn Library became a place where my sons and I bonded. They're here. It's not supposed to be like that, that's my modism. Where I learned about their interests and what topics brought them joy. Books became a part of who they were. When I returned to teaching in '08, a new purpose for reading and writing evolved. I created a Chicago history and literature curriculum. And I found that while teaching the subjects about which I was writing, I learned about my own characters, my own settings, and my own conflicts more than ever. And then I started reading as a writer. I looked at Charles Dickens' use of parallelism to create rhythm and structure. I looked at Carlos Ruiz Zafón and his descriptive language to create mood. And then I started writing as a reader, revising my work with an eye for detail and authenticity. Lines became a kind of labor of love during my summers. I kept the writing habits during the school year with poetry and essays and blogs, but most of my research and story scenes for the novel came when school was on a break. And after many years of that pattern, there were times I thought it would never come to a conclusion. I didn't have closure, even though there were drafts that came to unsatisfactory ends. And I remember spending one June to August creating 50 pages of backstory, and then the following June to August scrapping those 50 pages completely. But that didn't disappoint me, because every step along the way of this writing journey has brought me to something better. I'm happy to have waited one more summer over and over again, because the result is what has gotten me here today. I'm proud of Lines. I'm proud to have gone the self-publishing route so that my connection to the story has taken on a personal layer of depth that would not have existed if I went the traditional route. And I think my ancestors are proud of me too. Even though the story is not theirs, the names and backgrounds are their names and their backgrounds, and their spiritual presence has been with me. Once at a funeral, the priest said something in his homily along the lines that one is never truly gone until their name is uttered a final time. In writing Lines, I've allowed my ancestors to live on, and for that I'm blessed. I would like to thank all those involved with Soon to Be Famous. Your dedication to local writers is amazing, and through this experience I've had more exposure and recognition in the past 3 months than I thought possible in a lifetime. So yes, I am truly blessed.
We're gonna go here.
All right. I first heard about the soon-to-be famous contest actually from my brother. He sent me an email about it a week before the deadline. So I immediately contacted my mom, who was on the board of the Stickney Forest View Public Library District, and said, hey, you think one of the librarians at Stickney Forest View would like to sponsor my book? He said, I'll check. And fortunately, the librarian who she knew was on vacation, I dropped off a couple copies of the book and the list of requirements I needed, and then the day I think the application was due, she finally emailed me back saying, hey, happy to sponsor your book, here's the information. I think I got it in right underneath the wire, so I'm glad I did. My connection to the Stickney Forest View Library, though, goes back even further than that. That's the library I grew up with. That's where I went to as a kid. I remember going there every week and coming home with stacks of books and ending up having to pay the nickel a day fines because I kept them out too long. Discovering books like the Spaceship Under the Apple Tree, the Oz books, later in high school, the James Herriot books, when I found my interest in veterinary medicine. This is not the first novel I wrote. I'm actually a big science fiction fan, so my first novel was about golf. I like golf. I had an idea for a story where a guy would have a really great day, and that's how it kind of started out. But when I came to this story, I really wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to challenge my creative boundaries, push my literary skills to a limit. And I ended up writing a story about a veterinarian who does house calls on the north side of Chicago. Now you may ask, how does, since I'm a veterinarian with a house call practice on the north side of Chicago, how is that pushing my creative boundaries? Well, my fictional veterinarian, Dr. Ed, drinks coffee, and I don't. So I can imagine what it was like to like coffee. When I began the book, it was actually going to be a birthday present from my mom, whom I dedicated it to. And then it became a Mother's Day gift, because I hadn't quite finished it. And then a Christmas gift. 2 years later, finally it was done. And I was able to publish it in a copy that I was able to give her a nice bound copy of it. And that's about the time that I decided to go into the contest. As for my writing style, a lot of people like to ask me how I do the stories and stuff. And I don't like to have a big outline. For my first book, all I had was a golf scorecard filled in with numbers. Each chapter I knew what the score had to be at the end of the chapter, and how it got there I really didn't know until it actually happened. For this book, I wanted to make it humorous and light. It seems like a lot of books I see are focused on hunting down serial killers, dystopian futures, zombie apocalypses. I wanted this book to be fun, have a happy ending, have a chuckle and laugh on every page, and I wanted it to be something that both my mom and my kids would enjoy. So I started out with a few lines of what I needed to happen in the story. I had 3 little mysteries that I wanted my doctor to solve, and I knew how they were going to happen, but didn't quite know how he was going to get there. And it was fun writing the story. I would sit down each day and I didn't exactly know what the characters were going to do. Sometimes they surprised me. Sometimes they would say things I wasn't expecting, or doing things I wasn't expecting, like they had lives of their own. Sometimes I'd be in the middle of an important scene and something strange would happen, like with the snake. I didn't plan on the snake coming into the story, but there it was, so I had to deal with it. It turned out to be a really fun and interesting and humorous way to continue with the story. I have to admit, too, I felt influenced by the books of James Herriot, how he told his stories of the interesting characters that he came across, the eccentric people that he had to deal with. I actually deal with those kind of people every day. I'm not driving through the farmlands, sticking my arm up the rear end of a cow every day, but the people that I do deal with do have some interesting stories and some fun things that I was able to bring into the story. And I was also, I was inspired by the way he solved the medical cases that he had in his days with the tools and things he had available to him. And I wanted to invoke that same spirit of the heartwarming and touching stories that I read when I was a kid. I want to thank the STBF committee, the judges who had to read through these books. Congratulations to the finalists, whose books I had the great privilege to read and enjoy, and realize why they are also chosen to be here today. I want to thank Heather Schla and Sonia Reppy from the Stickney Forest View Public Library District. I want to thank my mom, to whom this book is dedicated. I want to thank my dad, who made sure we spent more time reading books than watching television. And I want to thank my clients and patients who are an inspiration for my stories. Thanks.
I think it's almost too short now, so I'll get to that, but I'm going to try to ad-lib a little. which my mom tells me never to ever do. I'm a writer, not a speaker. So first I want to say it's really awesome that there's a teacher and a veterinarian up here, because I wanted to be a vet when I was a kid. I wanted to be an equine vet, and so most of my first stories were written about horses and taking care of them. And an English teacher is the reason that I am a published author today that I had in high school that really encouraged me. My mom's a teacher. She really encouraged me in younger years to be in love with books and reading. So it's really cool to be up here with people that your career choice changed my life in multiple ways. So for both of you, so that's really cool. So first, I want to say that they gave us some speech ideas, and they asked us why, what made you join the competition? What made you apply? And I hadn't really heard about it. We live in Deer Creek, which is not Deer Ridge. It's not anywhere close to Chicago. We're central Illinois, between Peoria and Bloomington, surrounded by cornfields and soybean fields and cow farms and things like that. And I grew up in a town just next door called Carlock, which is even smaller than the one I live in now. 400 people in my town growing up, and which is probably less people than this city block that we're on right now. And my town now, 600 people. But the great thing about those two towns is we had amazing libraries. Really good librarians, really good book selections. For small town libraries with small budgets, they make do with what they have, and I couldn't ask for a better way to grow up to have libraries like that. So I moved to Deer Creek after I got married, and we wanted a small town for our kids. And one of the first things I did when I moved to town was go check out the library, because that was pretty darn important to me. And so I got to know Carlene, who is an amazing librarian, an amazing director. And by and by, she ended up learning that I like to write books, and that I dreamed of being an author. I was attempting to go the traditional route at the time while I worked on some things, and along with some family members, Carlene was really encouraging on the self-publishing route. Don't be scared of it, you can do it. It's not as daunting as you think. And it was Carlene that brought to my attention the soon-to-be famous author project. She was very supportive, and self-published authors know it's already a daunting career choice. Writing books is difficult enough. It can take years, months and years to write. I spent 8 years writing my first novel before it actually hit pages where people could sit down and read it. And it's just a daunting thing. And then you have marketing and publishing problems and taxes and crazy things that you didn't even think are problems when you just want to write and tell stories. So I went the self-publishing route, and Carlene let me know about this competition. Most writing contests that authors are involved in, you have to pay a fee to apply in the contest. Most of them won't look at self-published authors twice. They want traditionally published, they want background credits, you need a degree in writing, and they're very judgmental about who gets to apply. But this contest was nothing like that. You just had to be self-published and from Illinois, and I was like, check. So I applied, and the first year, I applied the first year with my very first novel, and I made the semifinals, which I was not expecting. They had a map. You had a map on the website that year of what towns all the authors were from, and there was like 5 that weren't from Chicago, and I was one of them. I said, that's awesome, because Chicago's the big city, and everybody's from there. So it's crazy that there was other people like me from smaller towns in other areas, and so I retried the next year, and I didn't make semifinals. I got a little depressed, but Carlene was on my butt about, don't give up, you keep applying. And so I applied again this year, and lo and behold, I made the finals, which was shocking. So if not for my local librarian, I would never have entered this competition in the first place, or kept trying and not given up. And it just goes to show that our town and our library, it can be small, it can be big, it can have a big budget, it can have a small budget. It doesn't matter, because they make up for size and money in every other way possible when they have the chance. The soon-to-be famous author project is another way that local libraries, both the big ones and the small ones, can help and support the people that they serve, from writers to readers, from researchers to the ones that have no idea what they're looking for, but they just walk into a library and they can find the answer. For all of those people, they can find what they need at their local library. So yeah, it's a great competition. It's a great competition for authors and for libraries, and that's all I have to say.
We want to say goodbye to Mike Lampeck. He has been a terrific representative of our project. He's been a terrific representative of someone who takes self-publishing seriously. If you've read his book, you know that you're looking forward already to the next book in his series. And when can we expect that, Michael? No pressure.
I get that a lot. It's I'm hard into the first draft now, but realistically, probably it's not going to be coming out for 2 years. Is what I'm going to say.
Everybody will be waiting for that. So let's give one last round of applause for our next speaker. And now for the big reveal, I'm wondering if all of the soon-to-be famous team can come on up here so that we can introduce each other.
I can't.
Well, or you can introduce.
Yeah, so there you go. We'll just take pictures of you as you sit here, right?
Awkward.
I'm gonna video her.
Super
There we
awkward.
go.
Yes. Okay, so as Denise had indicated, you know, it started with a couple of us. We very quickly got on board with a lot of people, and we've got one major member of our group that's not here today, Julie Stamp from the Eisenhower Library in Norridge, right? That's where that library's at. And Harwood Heights, I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. But she is actually representing our project at the Texas State Library Association Conference. So hopefully we can get some people down in Texas excited about this process. So why don't we start at the end of the line here, and you can introduce yourself and any other comments you'd like to make about the project, Lucy.
I'm Lucy Terrobor. I work at the Clarendon Hills Public Library, and I am, other than Eva, I'm the newer. So I didn't get in from the beginning, but this has been just a fascinating project. I've met a lot of great people and been introduced to a lot of fabulous authors, and it's been great.
Eva McGilly, Chicago Ridge Library, adult reference. This is the first time this is being held in the library. I kind of pushed that, so I'm really excited that everybody's here today.
I'm Donna Fletcher. I have a consulting firm for libraries. I'm also a trustee in Highland Park, Illinois. And I love this whole thing. Some of us started from the beginning, and it's been a fantastic project to work on. So.
And Donna's role has been truly a
huge,
huge part of this. She's done a lot of the grunt work, if you will, by collecting all of the authors. If you want to talk for a moment about that process.
Sure. Yes, I'm the author coordinator. So when people would submit their application, which was online and all this good stuff, I had to read them to make sure they'd done what we told them to do, first of all. And then put it in a spreadsheet, get all the addresses, the emails and addresses, the phone numbers, all this stuff. Well, we won't tell the story about the time I got stuck in Indiana for 2 days.
Yes.
When this was all going on. The first year we had 103 nominations, which was like paper everywhere. But now we get around 50 every year. So it's been great. And I must say, whenever I have to get a hold of some finalists or semi-finalists, boy, they get right back to me. It's fantastic. I wish my paying clients would do that.
Excuse me. And I'm Denise Raleigh from Gail Borden, and I already spoke earlier.
Hi, I'm Nikki Zimmerman from the LaGrange Public Library. I'm the PR marketing coordinator there. This has been a really wonderful opportunity to get involved in libraries in a way that I wasn't expecting to, because I came from Starbucks. So I'm not a librarian, and it's just been really unique for me to meet authors and work with this incredible team. We have too much fun, really. We have such a good time, and so it's been really enjoyable, and I'm looking forward to the future.
Hi, Christine Sigler. I'm with the Fox River Valley Libraries in Dundee, and I've been with this committee since we started, and I couldn't ask for a better group of people to work with, creative and visionary and fun. And it's been really rewarding to see the authors have this exposure and this chance to be out in the public and to be acknowledged and recognized for their work. So it's really made me look at writing in a different way.
and
wait,
Karen
wait, wait,
McBride.
wait a minute. I'm gonna get, Karen, you wanna go ahead, Karen?
I've got her.
I'm Karen McBride, the Barrington Area Library. This is my first year as an official member of this team, but I love this idea. I love libraries. I love the people on this committee. Just watching them over the last few years has been super inspiring, so when they asked me to be a part, it was a no-brainer.
So now you have all the people responsible for this, putting all the work in and the effort in, and now is going to be the big reveal. And so let us get a drum roll.
You want to move it over the...
Oh, should we want to make sure that our everyone can see it.
Okay. All right, and Michael.
Michael, would you do the honors? Come and step over on this side. Let's get a drum roll.
Drum roll. Wait a minute.
It's going to take a really long time on American Idol. After the vote is official.
We need a commercial break.
Right. When we come back, we'll find out the winner. Congratulations to the 2016 soon-to-be famous Illinois Author Project winner.
May I remind you where the tissues are?
We should write a winner piece and I didn't. Oh my gosh. I cry. I do.
okay.
I
There's
die. Thank you, Bob.
Well, and we also want to acknowledge our other two finalists. Terrific. It was very difficult, very close.
It was very, very close.
Yeah.
It was very close. So.
You deserve the recognition. Ahead of you. I'm sure you can talk with Michael and he can tell you a little bit more about some of his adventures along the way. And you've got your breath, Raja. You want to try to squeeze out a couple of words.
Thank you. You are so talented. You are truly so very talented. So this is an incredible honor. I am blown away. I pressed publish on December 15th. For the first time in a very long time. And I can't even believe this. It took me, I didn't even tell the school where I work at that it was published for 6 weeks because I was still so paranoid about people reading it. Was it good enough? Was, how is it going to be received? So this is a huge whirlwind. I'm at a new job too, new school. I mean, this whole year has been crazy. But I love you, Mom. I had the Berwyn Library is awesome, and the Berwyn, I got an email from Josephine and said, you've got to call the newspapers. They were asking about you, and I don't want to give out your personal information. Newspaper? That's crazy. And then all of a sudden it came out and it was this full page. I'm like, oh my gosh. It's just an amazing experience. And once I started hearing what people had to say about the story, and I started getting phone calls for book clubs, and I thought, oh, now isn't that awesome? Book clubs are awesome. And I don't know what to say. This has been a great journey. I have amazing support system. I have amazing people in my life. And I cannot wait to share this with all of them. When my parents, I got a chance to bring those news. I almost lost my dad this summer. And seeing you and Dad with that newspaper at age 48 when, it's supposed to be like, not the time, but at age 48, seeing my mom and dad being able to experience this with me is huge. So thank you. I really look forward to, gosh, everything. Go Illinois. Team up with Sydney Stickney. Berwyn and Stickney were right next to each other. And I would love the opportunity to be able to work with you on whatever programs we can. And I have relatives in Peoria. So
It's a really nice town.
I would love to be able to hook up somewhere along the line where finalists are part of all this too. I love them. Oh my God.
Thank you so much. Congratulations. Hand it off. You want to get rid of that chair, we can do that.
No, that's all right. I think it's
Sorry.
That's all right. Well, I would love for all of you to hang around if you like, and all of our authors, talk to them, ask them a little more about their stories. If you like, have some sweets. We have plenty of cookies and treats and coffee, so please enjoy.